this is Megan.
And this is Mark.
Welcome to our 31st video of the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge construction at Disneyland. Today is September 22nd, 2018.
We're located in Mickey's Toontown looking at the Galaxy's Edge rock work in the distance. From here we have a great view of the rock arch that is located on the top of the Battle Escape attraction. We'll look at the official Galaxy's Edge model to see where this arch will be located compared to everything else. I'll go ahead and highlight in yellow the arch, the peak, and the surrounding rock work that we're looking at. Now we'll take a look back to see how this area has developed over time. This is what it looked like back in November 24th, 2017. The arch and spire was only steel framework at that time. About 1 week later, mesh forms were added to part of the arch. On December 7th, we can see that more forms were added. Most of the arch is now covered with the forms. Now jumping ahead another week, we can see that the entire arch and spire are complete with the forms. Next, the first layer of concrete was added to the forms to create the rock formations. Also from this picture, we can see more framework for additional rock work. Now I'll dissolve the picture back to what it looks like today, which has the final concrete layer in color. It really looks nice. Also, on a side note, have you ever felt like someone was behind you? Well, right after I took this picture, I felt someone behind me rest their head on my shoulder, and then I felt his whiskers on the side of my face. He really caught me off guard, and I turned around, and I noticed it was Pluto. And I gotta say, it's always great to meet up with Pluto at Disneyland. What an unexpected surprise. Alright, now we're in Critter Country looking at the spires in the distance. And concrete has recently been added to this spire. We'll view the model to see what this spire will eventually look like. Alright, this picture was taken a few weeks ago. You can see the mesh forms, and you can also see the spire framework underneath the forms. I'll dissolve the picture back to what it looks like today. If we focus our attention a little bit to our left, we can see some of the amazing color that has been added to the rocks. I'll zoom in. From here you can see a variety of colors that represent different minerals in the rocks. The attention to detail is really amazing. Next, if we look at the lower left of the picture, we can see that there's a space between the rocks. We can also see some of the structural framework holding up the rocks. This area still needs a little work. It'll eventually be covered with rock formations. However, they're going to have to wait until the scaffolding to the right of this area is taken down to make room for the additional rock work. Next, we'll take a ride on the Mark Twain. Alright, in the distance we can see the rock work. And in the foreground, we can see our friend David from Fresh Baked. Most of you probably already know who Fresh Baked is, but for those who don't, they have an awesome YouTube channel. Not only do they provide Galaxy Edge updates, but they also provide trip reports around the parks, Disneyland history videos, and much more. If you haven't already, check them out. Megan and I definitely recommend it. Now we have a pretty good view of the open space between the rocks that will eventually be filled in once the scaffolding around the spire has been removed. I never get tired of the breathtaking beauty of those rock spires. They are awesome. This is a close-up of one of my favorite spires that they made so far. The color and texture is amazing. Peeking through a gap between the trees and the rocks, we get a different perspective. I'll pause the picture right here. We can see mesh forms to create rock formations at the far end of Galaxy's Edge. Here's an example of what we're looking at from the model. Moving on a little bit more, we have a view of a side structure located on the rocks. This can be recognized on the model. After the model was made, they decided to add something to the side structure. And what they added was an antenna, right here in this location. Or I should say antennas, because they added more than one clustered together. The antennas are located right here. Moving on, we can see the cylindrical side structure of the cantina. They still have to put the dome on it, but it's coming along. And here's what it looks like on the model. Now we'll go back to what this area looks like today. I always love this view with the train going by. It's really awesome. Next, if we look at the rock arch that we viewed from Mickey's Toontown earlier today, we can see support framework for the rocks and part of the Battle Escape building. This area as well will be filled with rock formations once they're done with the scaffolding in this location. Now we'll see what has changed from the perspective of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. We have a view of a stone wall that they're making. It's really coming along. Here's what it looks like on the model. If you look closely, you can see a worker adding paint detail to the wall. From this angle, we can see the side structure that we viewed from the Mark Twain. And here's the added antennas.
Today is September 29th, 2018.
We're located on Harbor Boulevard, and if we look to our right, we have a view of Galaxy's Edge. Now if we go to the bridge, we can see a turret of a cylindrical structure. And there it is. Workers are on the side of the turret performing detail work. Let's go to Donald's boat in Mickey's Toontown to get a closer view. The workers are adding different shades of gray to the surface of the turret, just like we saw a couple weeks ago on the top of the structure. We'll go ahead and watch them for a little bit. Next, we'll go to Chippendale's treehouse to view the developments of Black Spire Outpost. We can see that mesh forms have been added to the spire since we've been here last. Looking to the right, mesh has been added to the surface of the exterior walls of the cantina. This mesh is also called stucco netting, and it's used to make sure that the stucco, once it's added, adheres to the wall. Now we'll go back to Big Thunder Mountain Railroad to see what has changed from that perspective. We can see that a protective coating has been added to the wall sheathing of this structure. It's a flexible coating that seals small cracks and penetrations. Also, it provides a very high level of airtightness as well. From this angle, notice that the workers are continuing to add detail to the turret. And recently, in the exclusive Target Blu-ray release of the Solo movie, there is a special feature. It's called the Millennium Falcon from Page to Part. In this feature, we can see the turret on the ground level before it's transferred to its location. And here it is. Also, I love this shot, how we're looking through the framework of one of the dome structures. And actually, this dome is where the Podracer quick service restaurant will be. Here we can see the final look on the model. Here's a better look of the turret on the ground level under construction. And this location where the turret is located right now will be the actual location for the Millennium Falcon in the Black Spire Outpost, as seen here. Now I'm really excited about this. We're going to look at the extended views of the interior of the Millennium Falcon attraction, which was shown in the Blu-ray feature. This is a picture of the Millennium Falcon hallway, which we'll be walking through to get to the cockpit. And we saw many of these segments being transported into the show building, which was really fun to see. Here's a great picture of the desert table along with the bench surrounding it. Back in August, we saw this bench being transported into the show building as well. I can't wait to see this close up in person. It'll be really cool. The detail is amazing, right down to every button and light. Now if we go back to the hallway, the cockpit is down the hallway to the right. And here you will enter a door to the cockpit. This cockpit looks amazing. This is actually one of the ride vehicles. Each ride vehicle will sit 6 guests. And as we know, there will be 4 areas with 7 cockpit vehicles each. So if we look at ride capacity, 6 guests times 7 vehicles equals 42 guests per area. And then times 4 areas equals 168 guests on the ride at any given time. And let's say the ride lasts 5 minutes. That'll allow for approximately 2,000 guests per hour. The timing for the ride is a variable that might change, but I think 5 minutes is a good estimate. However, this doesn't take into account loading and unloading guests. It might take a little longer. If we compare this to Star Tours, the average capacity per hour for Star Tours is a little less than 1,500 guests. This includes loading and unloading, along with a 5-minute ride. So the Millennium Falcon attraction capacity could be very similar to Star Tours. And like I said, the variables that could make the capacity per hour less or more is the loading and unloading. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Here's another picture of the cockpit, and what's cool is that these buttons that we see will have a function rather than just for looks. There will be over 200 buttons to push in each cockpit to influence how well you do on your ride mission. Next, we'll go over the roles of the 6 guests during the ride. The front 2 seats pilot the Falcon. The middle 2 seats are gunners for shooting blasters at targets. And the rear 2 seats are engineers, which prepare for hyperspace and keep the Falcon in working order during attack. I love the fact that you will truly be in control of the Millennium Falcon, and I have to say I'm getting more and more excited every day watching all of this.
Me too.
It is really coming together so beautifully. The attention to detail is unmatched. Well, that's a taste of things to come.
We can't wait to see what they build next.